Okay, right. How hard can it be? Let's do this. Wet. Maker's breath! I didn't hear you enter.
Practicing your aim? It's improving.
Next time I'll aim for the head.
So, taking to your new administrative duties, well?
Well? Define well. Ever since Princess Pashley left to go on her diplomatic mission, my role as Dame Regent has been going as well as a fireball in close quarters combat. I haven't the first clue how to run a kingdom. Taxes? I have to calculate taxes now? I'm English, goddammit! I don't know how to calculate my own taxes, let alone a kingdom's worth.
Well, in situations like this, it's always good to...
Hey, Renara, I need to, put in an order, for, let me see, half a dozen more anvils, about 10 pounds of lard, and perhaps a new apprentice. There seems to have been an accident.
What in the name of all that is holy do you need lard for?
Well, apparently it's a common lubricant in most workshops.
It is, I swear. I need it for,
I don't need to know what you guys lubricate in your spare time. Can't you see I'm a bit tied up here?
Yes. On the topic of needing assistance, there is a small matter to which I need to...
Renara. Just who I needed to see. I'm really glad I didn't end up inside your desk. Anyway, I came across this rather old and very rare manuscript that details a pretty potent warding spell.
Yes, and?
The components that required to cast the spell are extremely expensive.
There it is.
I was hoping that maybe I could perhaps use some of the treasury's funds to obtain them, please?
Oh, no, Beardo. I got here first. That money is going towards my apprentice, anvils, and lard.
I thought you took your training anvils off years ago.
Apprentice and anvils and lard. Commas, Zamoody. They save lives.
Unlike your poor apprentice that I saw get flattened earlier.
Yeah? Well, at least I don't look like I hang out with the Crypt Keeper.
Enough, both of you! You managed to get Renara into a stun lock. Unfortunately, I have one more thing to add.
Oh, gods, no.
Well, I was out on my usual rounds, tending to the newly departed bodies, as always.
Get to the point!
And one of them just woke up.
Was it your work or Ravenmane's? Because if he's back...
That's the thing. There was no necromancy at all. He just came back to life.
Oh, that's not how it works! I really shouldn't be surprised. What is it now? The third time the laws of magic have been broken?
Yes, well, he's standing outside if you want to talk to him. I'll just go get him.
I saw the guy outside, but I just thought he was part of the furniture, you know?
How do I examine a man without being too intrusive? Ooh, perhaps it's time to test out my new...
Not in my new office, Zamoody. I'm not cleaning him off the walls if things go sour. We will do what any sane, normal human being would do. Ask him a million questions until he gets annoyed with us and leaves.
I wouldn't get annoyed at all. That sounds like a great idea.
Hey.
Hello.
You all seem like lovely people.
They are. Jeff, this is the Council of ColdRead. Here we would like to ask you questions about life, the universe, and everything.
Oh, I know the answer to this. It's 42.
Wrong universe, Jeff.
What?
Oh gosh, it does all get so confusing sometimes. One day I'm sailing past Niagara Falls, then I'm in... where am I exactly?
Well now, this is something we can help with. Take a seat, everyone, and allow us to explain exactly what you've gotten yourself into.
Ladies and gentlemen, that intro was from Renara. Thank you so much for the wonderful intro. And yeah, 42. We this Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Thank you for the reference. It's very awesome.
It's all good.
Yeah. Surprising. Renara kept it under 5 minutes. It was I loved it. Very intriguing.
know.
Yeah.
Well, I had to write in Jeff Universe of Cold Read somehow, so I thought I've got to introduce him. This is the best way to. Don't worry.
Oh,
There's more to his character than meets the eye.
fair enough. That works for me.
But you don't.
Thank you again so much. It was wonderful. We've got a couple new faces here, and we're going to get to everybody. Birnam, again, thank you so much for guest hosting, and we'll talk to you here in a second. But as we always do, let's go ahead and check in on the other side and see how everybody's week has been. So, Renara, starting with you, thanks again for the wonderful intro. How have you been this week?
Okay. Sort of on a bit of a roller coaster, a little bit, to be honest. Work started up and was absolutely insane. Really difficult to get back into the swing of that. As people know, I've been sort of working on an orc card for Skywind. That hasn't worked, and they've decided. Well, I have decided that it's not for me, and they have also decided that anything else that I could have provided isn't what they want. So it's kind of gone. I'm just sticking with my Dunmer at this point. So they've just kind of gone. It's fine, basically. So there's that. I have though almost finished editing chapter 3 of my audiobook now, so I've got the time to be able to go back into that now. So whilst one door closes, others the wheels are rolling in a weird mash of those what do you call it sayings. But yeah, no, it's been just sort of busy with outside stuff really. But other than that, just as I say, plodding along, keeping going, and learning to rest, not hop off the trail, so to speak. There we go.
Oh, good.
But yeah,
Glad to hear it. And you know, I'm sorry that the orc thing didn't work out. I know you were looking forward to it, but it's hard to work on a project when you know that you're not a good fit, and it's just gonna be so hard to try to get into it. So
yeah. It's all good though.
Yeah. Birnam, hello again. Hi. Mr. TikTok fame himself. I saw your video with 80,000 views. Insane.
Yeah, 130,000 as of a few minutes ago.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that kind of derailed the last few days of everything. Just kind of keeping an eye on that more than anything else, because it got that many views because it got so many comments, because people started arguing.
Of course.
Over the most pointless argument that there is. But,
which is how to read percentage dice, correct?
Right, how to read percentage dice in role-playing games. It just... the most pointless argument, and heatedly argued. So I've had to block one or two people. And,
wow. Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Well,
that's what happens with that many views.
In addition, I will say congratulations on passing the 1,000 follower mark on the TikTok. Yeah, I'm glad to see that you were able to do that. But in addition to this, how was your week, sir?
Other than that, yeah, it's been a decent week. The weather's kind of cooling off here. We've gone out for a few walks in the woods, and yeah, everything for Thursday is kind of a blur, to be honest. But we've had a good week. Yeah, not much other than that.
So Birnam, in chat, Stefatix is asking, why is that being debated?
Exactly. But because people have different ways of interpreting what 000 means. So
It's 100.
100%.
It's 100. Plain
Yeah.
and simple. It's 100.
It's 100.
It's 100 by most people's reckoning. Some people think that it's 10.
No.
And the thing is, as long as you keep it, they have a case for it. And the thing is, if that's what you go with at your table, fine. There's no problem with that. You'll still get the same range of possibilities. If you make it that's 10 and 100 is 90 and 0.
What? That's 90.
Yeah, it's
never mind. Okay, well, I don't want to turn this into a discussion. If you want, place down on the comments or let us know or email us, and I'm sure we can continue the conversation there as well. I'm glad the rest of your week went well, and congratulations on those two, Birnam.
Thank you.
Eldurrino, how was your week, sir?
Not too bad. I did not have as much time for auditioning as I was hoping for a couple of reasons. Aside from just really trying to hone in on writing the rest of the story for this rock opera. My girlfriend has been very, very, very overworked at work and with school and such, and so most evenings have been filled with us being up till midnight, 1 a.m., her just cranking away stuff at her computer in here. So obviously while she's in here, not really able to do a whole lot of recording. I did manage to get some auditions in though. I did a few of them for voices.com,
Nice.
just for just a few commercial spots, which I don't know if I'll hear anything back on that. But I mean, might as well throw my hat in the ring and see what happens. Yeah, doing some more writing as far as the story goes, which I have to remember to tell Renara about the idea that I have for her character later, because it's a very silly idea, and I presented this to my girlfriend yesterday, I think, or not. I'm sorry, not yesterday. Like on Thursday, and I explained it to her, and she gave me one of those like. And so,
that's how you know it's good.
Like I think it's funny, but I also have a very strange sense of humor. So
Okay.
yeah,
You
so
don't say.
I'll talk to you about it later.
Okay.
Otherwise, yeah, I mean, last few days my girlfriend's been away. She's spending time with her sister because her sister's getting married, so they've been having their like bridal shower bachelorette party this whole weekend. So yeah, so for the weekend I've basically just been drinking and playing Destiny 2. So
Nice. I was there with
Yeah,
you on some
good
of those,
times.
so I understand.
I mean, it's been nice because I needed a nice like little video game binge, because it's been rare in which I've been able to sit for longer than maybe like 1 to 2 hours. So it's just been nice to just take care of everything that I needed to do in the morning and then just sit on my fat ass and play video games. The end.
Skinny boy. So I'll talk about mine real quick. Obviously, yeah, I didn't have much time. If you follow me on Twitter, you'll notice I've been strangely absent. I had my youngest daughter was in the hospital. We found out that they had Epstein's virus, which essentially is mono. She's much better now. She's at home. Still suffering through some of the effects, but yeah, didn't really have time to do much other than like work and we enjoyed SeaWorld as I'm gonna show you here before everything happened.
I remember seeing that on your.
Oh
Twitter.
my god.
So I got a new hat.
You do
Please
realize you have
wear
to wear that
for
for the whole
rest of
stream
this
now.
episode.
Yeah.
Zamoody?
Damn it. So for those of you that are listening to us, this is basically a shark that goes on the head. If you want to check it out, you can go see it on YouTube. But yeah, that's basically it. So we have a new guest, and sorry that this is the weirdest way for me to segue into it. So Jett Barker, welcome to the show.
Hello.
Hello. So let me ask, how was your week before we move on to your story?
Yeah, so my week was generally pretty good. I would describe it as relatively average. Mostly I work as an audio engineer as well as a voice actor. So a lot of that sort of work was happening this week, and then sort of pedestrian everyday living type of things. I did buy a cactus. That was exciting.
Nice.
So now I have a little cactus that I've called Pippin after Peregrine Took from Lord of the Rings.
Wow, I think you just killed Renara over there with just
No,
that.
I love Lord of the Rings. Sorry. One of my favorite trilogies. Don't come at me, bro.
No. Gee, I wonder if I enjoy it or not.
I know.
Yeah. Well, so one of the reasons we want to bring you on, just we want to talk about your story so far as voice acting. So let's start at the beginning. How did you get into voice acting?
So, it's funny because for years when I would approach the topic, I always sort of came at it from the angle of, I wasn't an actor growing up. I wasn't a theater person, because I grew up as a pianist, and I would go and I would see plays, and I would be so impressed that people could be on stage and could be performing and doing all of these things, but I was like, I'll never be able to do that. And then as time sort of ticked on, I became aware of the discipline as a field in which people can work and do work. Through, honestly, at first, like film bonus features. So whether that's, original animation or ADR, I can technically credit Andy Richter for teaching me how ADR works.
Wow.
Because of the extras on the Cat Returns.
Wow.
But but even then, as I continued to grow older, I waffled very heavily between, do I want to maybe do the performing arts thing, or do I want to go into astrophysics? And because those two things have so much in common.
Absolutely.
And I was, I was 14. It was the very first time that SAC Anime, which is an anime convention in California that happens in Sacramento twice a year. It was the first time that they were in the convention center. And my mom and I, for context, I went to my first Comic-Con when I was 8 and my first anime convention when I was 12 because my mom is also a nerd.
Nice.
This is a good thing.
Yes, absolutely. So my mom and I were walking around the sort of vendors hall, and we happened upon this booth. That was, the people there, they were selling a book and a set of like 2 DVDs, and there was a little sign-up sheet, and it was for voice acting workshops. Mm-hmm. And we started talking to the person who was working at the booth, who explained that while their company that they were affiliated with was based in Southern California, every once in a while they would do workshops outside of that region. And they were planning on coming to San Francisco for the first time in let's say 4 years. And at the time, I lived about 30 minutes from San Francisco. And so we got to talking with this person, and he said, yeah, it's not intended for minors, but you seem low maintenance, basically. So I was permitted to sign up, and the person that I talked to then, who I've continued to keep in touch with all these years later, is Tony Oliver, who, has been a voice actor and now a director for over 35 years. Mm-hmm. And so really, when I went to those workshops, I came out the other side, terrified pretty much the entire way through, but I came out the other side going, yes, this is what I want to do with my life. And so that very much informed, especially because I sorted that out when I was young enough, that then as I moved through high school and then going into college. In college, I majored in theater and minored in computer science, but also just sort of floated around the music department to take singing lessons all 4 years. Basically just in lieu of piano stuff, because my philosophy was, I need some form of participation in music or I'm not gonna be a person very well. And then also there was a recording techniques class that I was able to take at my college. So I mean, really that sort of odd happenstance and, singular encounter in January of 2013 very much informs where I am up to and including now.
Wow. So that's been a long journey. So far you're looking at 8 years since you started.
Yeah. So 8 to 8.5. Yeah.
Wow. So
Awesome.
yeah, it's so far. Have you been able to land a role? What's been your favorite role so far?
Let's see. So my favorite role so far, is probably, it's probably, and I have a feeling that some people who are watching this on stream are also involved in the project, but is a visual novel that's called Royal Duality. It's a dark fantasy visual novel. And the character that I play in that, his name is Sirius. He's a very sweet demon boy. And I mean, like, Sirius was the first role that I recorded after I had all of my current acoustic treatment set up. And it was a phenomenal way to spend about a 3-week period at the beginning of 2021, just getting to inhabit this world and this role, and this beautifully written material, and work with a tremendously talented and very heartfelt and kind group of people. So, I mean, overall, working on that project was and is spectacular.
Nice. How did you come about finding this project?
Let's see. So for that one, I believe at this point I don't use Casting Call Club a heck of a lot. But every once in a while I'll still sort of float through and see, is there anything that really catches my eye? And that was among the listings at the time in November.
So this is the CCC project.
Yes.
Interesting.
I actually just remembered. I think I might have auditioned for that one. I can't recall though.
Yeah, I was about to say as well, I'm kind of in the same boat of checking in every now and again, and I think one caught my eye that I saw you'd actually auditioned in for just yesterday.
Really?
Yeah.
Which call?
I forget the name, but for a video game RPG, lots of like draconic people.
Oh,
that one.
yep.
Yeah, I'm probably going to audition for one of the other roles.
Nice.
Yeah.
So,
Very
Jett,
cool.
for the most part, is CCC where you started getting your first roles, or where did you start off with?
Let's see. So I think the very first role that I booked was through BTVA, so Behind the Voice Actors, and then some Casting Call Club stuff, and then at this point I source a lot of the calls that I'm doing that are, not behind a paywall. A lot of those calls are being sourced from Twitter, from Twitter and from just other friends and acquaintances as we sort of pass resources back and forth.
And it's funny because I know this show we're big sticklers about getting a network behind you, because you tend to get a lot of work from your friends and from everything else. So yeah, that definitely reinforces that point. Thank you.
Glad to be of help.
So looking back at when you were first starting, because I mean your equipment right now looks very phenomenal. I love your mic, I love your setup. But let's talk about when you first started, because I know Renara's told the story a lot that she started with just the headset mic and everything else. Where did you start back in 2013?
So what I did for many years was that I was petrified to audition for anyone's project. So what I did was that in 2013, I bought a Blue Yeti Pro, and for years and years and years, I would just do independent practice. I would find copy that already existed, or I would, do song covers or anything like that. And not not distribute any of that work. So I have this tremendous backlog of ancient audio files from those years of practice. And, you know, what I find most interesting about that, going back and listening to that now, is that, because I think as we grow up, we or at least this is very much how I did it. I sort of categorized my speaking voice into, okay, this is what I sounded like before the age of, you know, 13, 14-ish, and then this is what I sound like after. And even when I took those first workshops, it was very much a situation of like I'm naturally very, very chest resonant, and I knew that about myself. But going back and listening to those very old recordings, it's fascinating because while the pitch of my voice hasn't changed very much since I was, you know, 14, the overall behavior and resonance of it has changed. And so I think that even with the, you know, lower audio fidelity and no acoustic treatment and very dodgy performance, it's still a fascinating record, and I honestly would recommend to anyone who, you know, wants to pursue voice acting and acting in general to not wait until you have everything, but just work with whatever you have, and do the best work that you can and keep at it and be consistent, because over time it isn't necessarily that, especially if performance is something that makes you nervous or fearful or whatever, it isn't necessarily that you become less afraid or less uncomfortable. It's that you become comfortable with being uncomfortable.
100%.
Very good point.
We're going to catch up on chat real quick. Lovable Rogue 48 says that they're being called away. And they want us to give you a goodbye. Stephonics has a good question. What percentage of people do you think start out with Yetis?
That's an interesting question. Let's see. Certainly when I first started, I think it was pretty common for people to start with some form of blue microphone. For the Yeti itself, I found that among people that I know, it's sort of hit or miss, and even among Yeti owners in terms of like the longevity of that microphone, it's sort of hit or miss. I mean, me personally, if I were to grab that microphone and plug it into my, you know, USB port, it would still work perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Right.
But there are, you know, people who will get the same microphone and then within, you know, 2 years it's not functional. But in terms of overall percentage, I unfortunately can't speak to that simply because I don't know about like consumer trends.
Well, I think that I think the Blue Series mics are very popular because, one, they're affordable, and two, they're very easy to find. And they also don't require any type of interface. You know, most Blue mics are just straight USB, which I know a lot of directors or producers kind of frown upon. They prefer more XLR mics, which makes total sense. But yeah, just starting out, I mean, it's certainly not a bad product to pick up just to kind of practice. And we always have stressed the point that technology or a setup isn't necessarily going to make you a better voice actor. It's just simply something to help, I guess, pad your performance in a sense. Like you still need to learn how to breathe correctly. You still need to learn how to act. You still need to learn, you know, different things that you can do with your voice. And then once that comes along and you've done plenty of recording, listening to yourself, auditioning and such, then you can start, you know, enhancing it by reducing the background noise around you, using sound dampening blankets, or getting a sound booth, getting a better mic that is more suited for your voice, you know. So no, I completely agree. Like it's important to focus on your own performance before you start getting into the technology and such.
Absolutely. And I did have a Yetis when I started out, so I'm in that
the
club.
only one who hasn't.
Yeah.
I just remember them becoming a huge thing in the YouTube scene back when I was like, I would rather YouTube than voice act. And I remember oming and ahhing on it. And now I'm just sort of like, I'm good, thanks.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Mish Barker says the song covers are really awesome that Jett did during their practice years. You're nodding your head no at that. Okay.
Interesting.
Interesting.
I feel like this is someone that you know personally.
Quite possibly.
Funny.
Everybody gets that one person that loves to come in and embarrass in a comment. So there you go. You had your one.
Right. I did want to ask. So, during my middle and high school years, I grew up playing clarinet for the entirety of the 8 years that it encompassed. And I was curious as to how do you feel piano performance, whether it was on or off the stage, how do you feel like that has helped you in the voice acting journey?
So certainly, even just from a technical standpoint, because of the fact that, participating with music, and especially participating with music when you're young, you learn to have a very firm grasp on certain tenets, including, rhythm and maintaining your, internal metronome and doing all of these things. And especially for highly technical work, like ADR dubbing, that is immensely useful. I also feel like, especially because of the fact that the piano it's kind of a weird instrument simply because it's wedged between a couple of different sort of classes of instrument. If it were a D&D character, it would be multi-classed into some horrible abomination.
One level string, one level percussion.
Yeah.
And everyone would look at it and be like, I don't understand how that works, but okay. But even just understanding from a proprioceptive standpoint, where you are in space and being able to correlate what you're doing physically to a resonant space, even if it isn't your own body, I feel like that sets you up tremendously well to understanding the sort of resonant, pseudo musical space that is using your voice in a performance context. And I also feel like, when you're working with any form of music, especially if you're, working with sheet music, you learn how to, mark scores and annotate and understand not only the whole of, say a given line of music, but also each individual phrase and each individual measure. And I feel like in terms of acting, that translates very smoothly because you have your entire line, but you also have every individual beat within that line, within that paragraph, within the entire project as a whole. So I feel like although the two mediums of performance and of expression are very different, they do complement each other very well.
Right. No, that's a very interesting response. And something that I guess I never really thought of myself, because I've been a musician for many years now. I haven't really done a whole lot of anime dubbing. I've had a hand in one project, and I was certainly nervous to do it. I've seen enough anime to know how the process works, but it's wildly different from other things where you have a good amount of time to present your line. Whereas anime, you have a confine of time that you need to fit in. And the whole internal metronome and just knowing how to pace yourself through that line is very important. And something I never really realized about that. So thank you for bringing that up. That actually makes a lot of sense. My bad.
Oh, I was going to say the Sky Dome is asking a question. Do you find yourself needing to preserve your voice in daily activities outside of practice? Because sometimes I come across in real life people that speak little in order to perform later. So I mean, it's for me personally. My voice doesn't really have a limit, but I mean, I can assume that can be personal from person to person.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my job is talking all day, so I technically end up using my voice. I have the opposite problem of I've used it all day. I might run into the problem of I've overused my voice by the end of the day. So I have to be really careful how much, because I mean, I work with students, I work with children, I work with talking to them all day to get them through lessons. So it's that sort of thing of how much.
Sometimes raising your voice.
Oh yeah, that's happened only occasionally, but it does happen sometimes. But yeah, no, I have the opposite problem.
Right. How do you find yourself doing the same thing, Jett, where you kind of preserve your voice outside of doing projects just to help with performance, or does it not really matter so much?
So I'd say generally, I don't deal with a lot of vocal fatigue. Where I do deal with vocal fatigue is more if I am attempting to use a part of my range that isn't currently active. So, you know, I feel like a lot of people have the experience of you wake up and your lower register is very, very solid, but if you want to be able to do the high stuff, you have to warm up. But if you warm up past a certain point, you lose your low end.
Yeah, sure.
And so, you know, that's something to balance and to keep in mind. In terms of overall vocal fatigue, if I need to talk for extended periods of time, I absolutely can, but I also feel very fortunate in having had classical singing training for 4 years through my college's music department. And I'm also of the mindset, very much, especially with, you know, a parent who comes from an educator's background, that I feel like all educators need to get breath control training, because the overall incidence of teachers who end up developing like yearly laryngitis or vocal polyps or vocal nodes is just, it makes me so sad. It makes me so sad. And you know, so I feel like for me personally, the worst vocal fatigue that I ever endured was in college when we were doing a staged version of George Orwell's Animal Farm. We were not mic'd, so we had to project through the entirety of the theater. And when you are spending hours of your life figuring out how to make the most horrifying donkey noises. I can't do them anymore. Please don't ask.
No. Whoa. Been there. I understand.
Dang.
I went to my singing lessons during Tech Week, which, for those of you who aren't theater people, those are the very long technical rehearsals right before you open. So 3.5 hour rehearsals every evening, in addition to normal class rehearsals as well. And I went to my voice lesson that week and attempted to sing, and my voice immediately just went, no. No. So, I mean, that's the closest that I've come to just like, it's a no from me. But yeah.
I can totally see that. I mean, I've been through a couple of tech weeks myself, so I understand it's a slog, and especially those last two with the dress rehearsal. It's just whatever happens. You got to keep going. You lose your voice, too bad. Try to figure it out. You know.
Right.
To a weird degree, I can. Oh no, go for it.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, like, in my own theater experience, I know how that can feel sometimes. In that, for my theater, like, it was pretty small budget. And so there was only like a handful of mics that were generally reserved for the main characters. But during one year's presentation of A Christmas Carol, I had a number of parts where my character would show up and narrate certain parts. And of course, I didn't have a mic, and I was standing near the back of the stage. So but I had to be very ominous, you know, in a very narrative style. And so I was trying at my, you know, age 16 to 17 voice to not get too high for the people in the back, you know, because otherwise it just sounded like, you know, the man was wandering down the road. It would just sound weird. So it was, yeah, very, very strenuous on my voice. I mean, granted, that was still during the time in which I was still developing, you know, and whatnot. So I was thankful for that, and in return, it actually helped with learning vocals, because like I've mentioned this on the podcast before. I am more of a hard style rock or metal style vocalist, and so I do a lot of stuff that most people would find scary and very harmful to the voice, but I use that experience to help learn how to project, how to control my breath, etc., etc.
Because I found this with at the very least recently with because we were talking about range and talking about how certain areas can be hit and others can't. Despite the fact that my voice is low, there is a certain register that I have been trying to reach, which is the register you naturally speak at, Jett, which is this sort of low rumbliness that sort of appears down the bottom of your throat. And no matter how much I have managed to stretch down to that point, I find, yes, I can talk lower, but I will never manage to, at the very least now, reach that gravelly tone. So I was wondering, do you have any textures that you struggle with to actually like reach? Because I mean, my voice will be constantly smooth. I don't think I can do anything, any much textures to it at this point, because I nearly damaged it trying to. But I was just wondering, have you had any experiences being asked to do a certain textured voice and finding, oh my god,
so when I am forever grateful that you know, the person who I started taking workshops from, he has this uncanny ability to teach basically anyone how to control their resonance in about 10 minutes, and I've never been able to explain it to anyone properly, and I forever kick myself for that, because I'm just like, why? But what was fascinating to me was that the first time that I removed all of my chest resonance, I actually stood with a stunned expression on my face, saying nothing for about 3 seconds, and he sort of chuckled and went, "Yeah, you just got rid of all your chest resonance, didn't you?" And I went, "Yeah." But I mean, to sort of answer your question, Renara, I very much, you know, have the sort of voice print of I call people on the phone, I call doctors' offices, and I give them my birthday, and they ask me to confirm it 2 more times because they believe that I am a solid 20 years older than I am. And I'm like, no, you're hearing the decade correctly. It's okay. I know I sound like this. So, you know, I mean, when people, I've had a couple of people who reach out to me, and, you know, can see from my picture that I'm a, you know, relatively young human, and just go, "Hey, can you voice this teenage girl?" And I'm just thinking, I don't think you understand what my voice print is like, but I'll certainly try. And every time they go back and they're like, "Yeah, that wasn't quite what we were looking for," and I was just like, "Does not surprise me at all."
So if time travel was possible and you can go back and talk to yourself right after you went into that booth in 2013, what advice would you have for yourself?
I you know, just to get a little bit real for a second here, I would very much take Tiny Jett and say, like, you're scared, and you're scared of everyone, but that's okay. And it's, I mean, again, it's not a situation of you don't need to abate all of that terror in order to, you know, be a functional human and be like a functional adult and be a voice actor and do all of these things. It's just learning how to work in a way that works for you. And also to just understand that, you know, there are certain roles that you will see where you feel like you don't fit. and you really, really want to. And sometimes, even just for the sake of your own enjoyment, try it. Do it anyway, because you're not going to land the gig regardless, and that's, you know, very much the assumption that I go in with, because you don't tend to be disappointed as much that way. You're not going to land the gig regardless, so you may as well absolutely enjoy the process. And, you know, I mean, I feel like a lot of what I've learned over the years has been, sure, you know, discovering the acting methodologies that work really well for me and understanding more about the way that my voice works, but also just understanding how to manage the, you know, chaotic tornado that, you know, likes to bounce around in my head to, you know, be a person.
Wow. A lot of us here have definitely felt that, and that's very, very good advice, because especially in this particular industry, it's you know, hundreds of people go in for one role. So if that one person gets picked, you know, there's going to be hundreds of people that are not going to have had that opportunity. But yeah, enjoy the auditions. Don't be afraid. And Renara says it every week. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there and do that.
Yeah. Do it. Have fun. One step at a time. Keep going. Don't stop. But have fun.
There's your one per episode. Thank you.
There we go.
So you've obviously, I mean, I love your setup, and I already mentioned this. At what point did you decide it's time for me to get a high-end booth?
For me, you know, I mean, I very gradually over time would just slowly swap out components of my setup. I think what really wound up pushing me toward investing was going, okay, so I can either buy the supplies to home construct a booth and then eventually have to move with it, and then eventually have to invest again to continue to upgrade, or with how my financial circumstances happened to be at the time, I can feasibly invest up front and then not have to bite future costs down the line. So for me, it was really a situation of you know, the continuing process of changing and improving my setup, but also just understanding that logistically it made sense at the time.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah, no, that's very smart. And like I was discussing with you before the podcast, you know, like I would love to be able to build my own booth right now, because I know I could do it, but I know that it'd be more of a permanent option as opposed to something that I can travel with or whatnot. And with me renting out of this current house, it's not a viability. So yeah, no, that's a very smart idea. I kind of think about it like computers, you know, you're always swapping out parts for computers, always. So I don't know how that compares, but I just wanted to say it because I like computers. If
I may ask, how much did it cost, roughly, for anyone who might be interested in possibly obtaining one?
It wasn't pretty.
Yeah. So
no comment.
Yeah.
More of a bullet hole than a little dent. Okay.
So those particular ones I'll definitely say they run towards four figures. Probably more towards the mid end.
Okay.
But I mean, again, it's an investment. It's an investment in the future.
Yeah.
It's an awesome thing to have, because it does help with the sound dampening and everything else, especially if you're serious about it. And we've always said, take care of yourself first, make sure you can pay the bills, and if you've got the extras to invest in it, do it.
Yeah.
So let me go back over to chat real quick. Fire and Brimstone says, I have to say Jett has a fantastic voice. I agree.
Agreed.
Stephonics says also agreed. She's a phenomenal and versatile VA. And also likes your computer analogy there.
Computers.
No, you know, I mean, I was a computer science minor in college, so technology.
Hell yeah.
Picking up that computer science.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jett, what's your dream role?
Oh,
I know
I
these are
mean,
always hard questions, huh?
yeah. I mean, for me, I hesitate to pin down like only one thing.
Fair enough.
I think in terms of like character archetypes that I've never played that I would love to play, I would love to be a strange but ultimately benevolent like hermit living in the forest, like Radagast adjacent. Like absolutely does not belong in society, but everyone kind of keeps them around because they aren't malevolent, they're just a little bit weird.
I see Renara's gears are turning. Yeah.
Making notes.
I knew it.
Basically every D&D character I've ever played.
Hey.
Absolutely. So as you know, we've had our trilogy of Cold Read the Podcast that Renara has been writing, and you know, right before we started, she asked you what character you wanted to be. I think it was just found. So
I think I know what. I may perhaps need to consult with you on how this person is going to be, but I have an idea.
I also see Matt Man's like looking over. That's Miskatonic Memorialist in chat who does the Darkest Dungeon stuff.
Just read what you said.
Yeah.
Yes, how I met you, lovely humans.
Okay, so we've talked about how you began. We're kind of, well, it's not your goal, but it's your dream job at the moment. Do you have any plans at all to make this an actual career, or are you comfortable with it being kind of a side thing with your 9 to 5?
Yeah, so I mean, what I'm doing right now is very much laying the groundwork to eventually make the jump to full time. At this point, it's something that is far away enough in the future to where, like, it's not a feasible option for me to pursue right now, and it may not be for even up to a few years from now. But even just understanding that regionally, I am in the correct position. When the global panini cools down enough to
When?
I like that.
When?
Yeah.
I'm going to say when because I can't handle it much longer, but
Yep. So when the global panini cools down enough to where, in-person opportunities are more of a thing. And I do genuinely, deeply hope that the current remote recording meta continues to persist. It sounds like it will to some extent simply because the LA and Dallas sort of contingents have finally intermingled because of technology. So I mean, my hope is that just in general for accessibility within the industry from multiple different sort of axes, that remote recording continues to be a thing. But, you know, for whenever in-person opportunities become more of a thing again, I am the correct position for that. Pursuing agency representation is something that I'm working on. I'm still sort of trying to pivot and position myself the right way. But that is really the sort of big current goal that's slowly being poked at with a stick. But
Okay. We're coming down on the last couple of minutes here. Panel, any questions for Jett that I may have missed?
I had a question because I looked at your kind of Twitter profile and stuff beforehand, and Jett, and you kind of mark it on there being like Schrodinger's Brit or being British American. I'm wondering what the background is on that, and if you think that's part of your marketing for your brand, or what that brings to the table.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a dual citizen. My dad is from England, and I very much, describe the way that I speak as 3.5 accents and a trench coat, but the way it comes out happens to be
amazing.
like it happens to sound mostly like general American English.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of, especially if I'm extremely excited about a thing or extremely tired, I'm going to veer either very Yorkshire or very Texas.
Wow.
I can hear the
And there's
Yorkshire.
there's
Yep.
stuff in common with all of those. I was even pointing out to someone the other day the similarity between like Louisiana and Yorkshire in terms of saying things like yad. But yeah, because as you know, Scottish person living in the US, and I've got a kid. She's a dual citizen. Yeah, I was kind of curious about that. And
Would you be able to do a British, like proper, like my accent? Do you think?
Not to put you on the spot or anything.
Not immediately, but it can be just a yes or no. I'm not going to make you do it, but I was just interested. That's all.
Renara, the first time that we worked together was in the
Gods, it was
oh gosh, what was it? It was the Creature Collectors.
Yeah,
and I was right at the very beginning of that.
I completely forgot. I am so sorry.
God, No. So I mean, like for me, it was very funny because as part of my theater major, my university had a partnership with the American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco. So I got to get a little bit of conservatory level dialect training. And so what that meant was that because we sort of focused around England, because I could already do RP and I could pretty much already do estuary, I decided that I was going to learn extremely posh, old school received pronunciation, which is so not useful and it's very isolating to Americans. But I have so much fun doing it.
It's the most. It's one of the for all the other Americans. It is the most fun because it's the most accentuated and it's overdone. Like I guess a good way to a good place to look is Maggie Smith from Downton Abbey. I think is probably the
or
best
the Queen.
one.
Yeah.
Or the Queen. Well, yeah, the Queen.
It's the Queen's English.
Yep.
It is indeed.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I forgot that. Oh God.
No, you're totally fine.
You'll come to know I apologize a lot on this podcast.
You come to learn. Jett, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much. We got to learn a lot.
You.
Yeah.
And again, I agree. Love the voice, love the work. Thank you so. And I honestly did not remember that you were on with some of Matt's work too. So I apologize for that. But okay, so let's talk about ongoing. So again, thank you, Birnam. Thank you so much. Normally, this would be Pashley's turn to do the intro. Obviously, we're gonna have to skip that. So, Eldurrino, you're up to bat for next week. Oh gosh, the smile's already working. Is this the conversation that you're gonna have with Renara?
No, that's for that other project way later on down the road, probably in like December. But no, I have an idea of what my next masterpiece is going to be. So
can't wait.
Okay.
Fire and Brimstone, people who can do accents are just brilliant. I absolutely agree, since my Hispanic, being Hispanic, comes out as Irish. That's always trouble. Love doing old school upper class British accents. I revel in it. Well, yeah, that's absolutely awesome. If you have any questions, if you have any topic ideas, or if you just want us to listen to your a demo or an audition, please email us, ColdReadthePodcast@gmail.com. There goes my dogs. I think they're dragging somebody away. They're dragging somebody
almost
away.
done, dogs. Relax.
It's like the last couple of minutes. Give me a break. ColdReadthePodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for those that have been here. Thank you for everybody who put in comments in the chat. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you're listening to us on anywhere that you get podcasts, thank you so much. Shout out to Japan. We came in big in Japan again last week. Birnam, thank you so much for being a guest host. Jett, again,
Anytime.
thank you again. But with that, we are going to go ahead and wrap up. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been an absolute pleasure. Please keep those things going, and we will catch you all on the next episode. Bye-bye.
Never go. Keep doing stuff. We believe in you. Bye.
Drink water
And coffee.
Drink it.
You came out garbled. Say it one more time, Eldurrino.
drink water.
There we go. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.
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 Bye.